Midterm.
In the world of psychometrics, reliability is the consistency of scores obtained by the same person whether tested with identical tests or with an equivalent form of the test. If the test results from tests are replicated consistently, they are reliable. A correlation coefficient can be used to assess the degree of reliability.
But before we proceed to correlation coefficient, what is correlation?
Correlation is the statistical measure of how two test scores move in relation to each other. Correlation is represented by correlation coefficient, which ranges from -1, which is negative correlation. Next is 0 or no correlation. And lastly is +1, which means positive correlation. It is also said that correlation coefficient is the one that expresses the degree of correspondence or relationship between two sets of scores. Positive correlation represents by +1, which means each persons occupy the same relative position in both variables. Next is negative correlation, that represented by -1. It is a complete reversal of scores from one variable to the other. In negative correlation, you will see the relationship between two variables such that as the value of one variable increases and the other one decreases. And last is no correlation, also called as zero correlation. It indicates the complete absence of relationship between the test scores. And the most common way to compute the correlation coefficient is the Pearson moment correlation coefficient.
Actually, there are different types of reliability. So what are those?
First is the test-retest reliability. This is the most obvious method for finding the reliability of test scores is by repeating the identical test on a second occasion. Second is alternate form reliability. This is one way of avoiding the difficulties encountered in test-retest reliability. Next is split half reliability. It assumes that a number of items are available to measure a behavior. The another type of reliability is Kuder-Richardson and coefficient alpha. This is another method to test reliability because it utilizing a single administration of a single form is based on the consistency of response to all items in the test. And the last type of reliability is scorer reliability. This can be found by having a sample of the test papers independently scored by two examiners.
It is important to distinguish between the measurement of speed and power. So, what is pure speed test and what is pure power test?
Pure speed test is one which individual differences depend entirely on speed of performance. While in pure power test, it has a time limit long enough to permit everyone to attempt all items. It will be noted that both speed and power tests are designed to prevent the achievement of perfect scores. The reason for such precaution is that the perfect scores are indeterminate.
After that, let's talk about standard error. Okay?
Standard error of measurement, also called the standard error of a score or SEM. It estimates how repeated measures of a person on the same instrument tend to be distributed around the examiner's true scores. Always remember, true score is always unknown because no measure can be constructed that provides a perfect reflection of the true scores. Always put in your mind that the larger the SEM, the larger the reliability of the test. Since all measurement contains some error, it is highly unlikely that any test will yield the same scores for a given person each time they are retested.
The final concept discussed from the book of psychological testing by Anastasi and Urbina concerns the reliability of criterion reference test.
These tests usually evaluate performance in terms of mastery rather than degree of achievement. Since a major statistical implication of mastery testing is a reduction in variability of a scores among persons, if everyone continues training until the skill is mastered, variability is reduced to zero. Therefore, Anastasi and Urbina, the author of Psychological Testing, states that it would not be appropriate to assess the reliability of most criterion reference tests by applying the usual procedures to a group of persons after they have reached the pre-established mastery level. Under these conditions, even a highly stable and internally consistent test could yield a reliability coefficient near zero. This apparent difficulty in the assessment of reliability arises from a failure to consider what the domain reference tests are designed to measure. These tests are used essentially to differentiate between those persons who have and those who have not acquired the skills and knowledge required for the designated activity. Nevertheless, in all such situations, the fact that a test is used at all implies the expectations of variability in performance among individuals. A major portion of this variability reflects individual differences in amount of prior training in the relevant functions. The choice of a particular procedure should take into account the nature and uses of the test, the position of cut-off scores, and other psychometric features of the test. Thank you for watching our video about reliability. And special thanks to Glenn Polero for helping us to our video.